One job.
Sir, sir.
One job.
I'll be honest.
We had a study session. Yeah. Before the it was before the drinking. It's Aquavelt. Oh, excellent. All right.
That's called filtration.
You want him sitting up here, right?
Oh, okay, yeah. Great. Wherever you want. All right, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin in 10 minutes.
Sir.
I like
President here, Edward Inch.
Yeah, I just let you know I saw the president on his way. I didn't know.
Is he in here?
He looked like he was coming.
Oh, okay. So.
He looked like he was walking this way. So I don't know if he's just stopping by.
Oh,
but
okay.
I didn't know if we needed to add him to the speech.
No,
If you see him come in, just add him.
Yeah. What does he look like again?
Like,
Okay.
Yeah, I have an hour and 15-minute car drive, so I drink mine on the way.
a couple coffees.
Do you want a water or anything?
No, we're gonna start pretty soon. I'm just gonna run right through it. So I appreciate them.
Try and take care of your battle.
No worries. Sir, is that a President 100 tab?
Say again? No, it's an international competition.
I don't see these.
Gotcha.
No, but how many do we have total?
Just what's highlighted.
So 2, 6. We got more than enough room if we want to move them down.
Yeah. Just want to make sure he gets president.
President showed up. So.
Yeah, I heard that.
Oh, it's right there.
Yeah.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Sorry. No, you got it.
If I somehow skip it, I'll also just do Sora's too, since it's sitting down there. And then if I skip it, you could just come by and say it again. But it should be good.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin in 5 minutes.
doing, Cal? Feeling good? Good stuff. What's up? Not too bad. Not too bad. Staying up here for now. The worst was I was up here for 2 hours and 30 minutes. Always. What? Very large. Very large.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin in approximately 1 minute. Please ensure that your cell phones are set to silent. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Military Science Department, we would like to welcome you to the Minnesota State University Mankato Spring 2022 Maverick Battalion Commissioning Ceremony. We are honored by the presence of friends and families of the commissionees, especially the Bethany Lutheran College Associate Professor Sarah Edwards, the Dean of the Department of Education, Jean Haar, the President of the University, Edward Inch, and also our guest speaker, Lieutenant Colonel Eduardo Suarez. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the playing of the national anthem and remain standing for the invocation delivered by Cadet Kelm.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for blessing these cadets with the instruction and training over the last 4 years that has prepared them for this day. As these cadets commission and become lieutenants, bless them with the strength to live by the Army values, the knowledge and tactical prowess to win on the battlefield, and the humility to learn from their mistakes. Give them wisdom and guidance as they bear the responsibility for leading and caring for other men and women in this great nation's Army. Preserve them physically, mentally, and spiritually always, and let them come safely home when their service to our country is complete. In your name we pray. Amen.
Please be seated. At this time, the Professor of Military Science, Lieutenant Colonel Brian Sleesler, will address the cadets.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome and thank our distinguished guests, Maverick Battalion supporters, cadre, family members, and friends for attending today's ceremony. Your support of the Maverick Battalion ROTC program, along with the hard work and dedication of our cadets, is what makes commissioning these new officers possible. This program produces outstanding officers. We are able to do so because of the dedicated work of these cadets, their families, support, university partners, and community partners that support our efforts and provide opportunity that enable our cadets to excel. I'd like to take a moment to introduce the Maverick Battalion Military Science Department. Without their experience and dedication to developing future Army leaders, commissioning these second lieutenants today would not be possible. Cadre and staff, please stand when your name is called. Master Sergeant Adam Burgeon, Senior Military Science Instructor and MS3 Instructor. Major Mark Harriott, Assistant Professor of Military Science, Executive Officer, MS3 Instructor, and Military History Instructor. Captain Ashley Stefano, Assistant Professor of Military Science, Army National Guard Liaison, MS2 Instructor. Mr. Randy Herman, Maverick Battalion Recruiting Operations Officer. Mr. Jeffrey D., Human Resource Assistant, Military. Ms. Christina Boyce, Supply Technician. And Ms. Paula Anzures, University Administrative Assistant. Thank you for your support to these cadets and your dedication to developing these leaders. Before I introduce the guest speaker, I'd like to say a few words. First and foremost, I'm extremely proud of all these cadets who are about to commission. As a professor of military science, I believe our program has two key tasks. Key task number one is develop the best and most prepared second lieutenants possible. To me, this means officers that are confident, they're self-aware. It means dedication to the mission and your fellow soldiers. It means you seek responsibility, development, challenges, and you own it. and it means you live the Army values. You're about to enter one of the most complex career fields and leadership roles out there. I believe you all have the tools to succeed. You are ready, and key task number 1 has been completed. Key task number 2, Maverick Battalion is a program that others want to be part of. This includes cadets, cadre, university, and community partners. I recognize that it's not possible to do this on our own as cadre, and it takes every member of the team to represent the program in a positive manner. I can say without a doubt that these soon-to-be young officers have set the example. You've contributed countless hours representing the program and giving back to our university and local communities. You embody and demonstrate what it means to be servant leaders, and as a result have left our program better off than when you joined. Your efforts have fostered relationships that will continue to create better leaders for the program. Thank you. I challenge you to always approach your organizations with the same mentality, leaving them better than when you showed up, just like you have this program. It's not easy to be a college student balancing individual academic requirements while attending 0600 PT 3 days a week, weekly military science classes, leadership labs, and multiple other training events. And if that's not enough, various activities such as Ranger Challenge, Norwegian Foot March, German Armed Forces Proficiency Badge, cultural and leadership programs, airborne and air assault schools, internships, and clinicals, just to name a few. You have demonstrated your dedication to service and that you're ready to lead and you're ready to tackle whatever challenge you face. At this time, I'd like to introduce today's guest speaker. Our guest speaker this morning is Colonel Eduardo Suarez, who is currently serving as the Director of Communications for the Minnesota National Guard. He entered active duty service in 1989 as an infantry soldier. He then commissioned through the University of Minnesota's ROTC program as an armor officer in 1996. Colonel Suarez served in various positions from the company to brigade and commanded at the company and battalion level. Colonel Suarez holds a Bachelor of Science from the University of Minnesota, Master's from Central Michigan University, and a Master's of Strategic Studies from the U.S. Army War College. He has deployed 3 times, is a graduate of the U.S. Army War College, and in his current position as the Director of Communications oversees the Diversity and Inclusion Program, Government Relations, Public Affairs, and Military Outreach. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Suarez.
I'm not that tall. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Schiessler and the Maverick Battalion for having me today. And good morning, and congratulations to the newest commissioned officers in the U.S. Army. The oath you've taken, or will take, is not a trivial one, and I will tell you honestly, when I look back at my time in this moment, I don't think I really understood the gravity of taking that oath when I was a young lieutenant. And that was a long time ago. In fact, it was my outgoing brigade commander on active duty that must have saw something in me and said, hey, Ed, you should consider going officer corps. It was others that saw potential in me. It wasn't something that I thought was in me. And so I really appreciate and acknowledge the hard work that went into this moment for you all, and I'm extremely proud of you. So how to lead in today's Army, in today's current operational environment? That's the question of the hour here. And interestingly enough, Major General Erlandson yesterday made many highlights, and so you'll see those things echo in my comments this morning. My intent today is to share with you what I've learned about leadership. I certainly haven't got it all figured out yet, but I'll pose a lot of questions during my comments to you for you to consider as you move forward in your journey as new Army leaders. So here's the first question. If you had to choose, what's more important to leadership? Is it character or competence? And it seems like a simple question, but I will tell you, over the course of your career, the answers will take many different forms, and it will challenge you as a leader in understanding the differences and when those things apply. So I reluctantly decided I would go ahead and quote something from Army doctrine, so I'm going to reference ADP 6-22, Army leadership, and so bear with me. Leadership is paramount to our profession. It is integral to our institutional success today and tomorrow. And as we transition to meet the challenges of an increasingly complex and uncertain environment, which it is today, our Army requires intelligent, competent, physically and mentally tough leaders of character. And here's a few expectations referenced in that manual. Have a vision and lead change. Be your formation's moral and ethical compass. Learn, think, and adapt. Balance risk and opportunity to retain the initiative. Be agile, effective, and high-performing units and teams. Empower subordinates and underwrite risk. Develop bold, adaptive, and broadened leaders. And communicate up and down and laterally and tell the whole story. That's a pretty big list of requirements to be a leader, is it not? It is. But your first assignments are going to challenge you. Your leadership attributes and influence your competencies. And really, how are those things different? Attributes are what a leader is. Your character, your presence, your intellect, how you lead, how you develop yourself and others, and lastly, how you achieve results. And competencies is what a leader does. And I will tell you, soldiers will watch everything you say and don't say, and they will look at everything you do and what you don't do, right? And I think today's soldier is willing to tell you how they think about you. I mean, it's just the time we live in right now. And they do it in a manner of different ways. It might come out in a command climate survey, might be the talk in the barracks, might be on social media. But I think today's soldier is more apt to tell you what they're thinking than when I first came into military service. They believe their opinions matter, and they should. And when you don't listen to them, they won't feel valued. In fact, when soldiers stop bringing their problems to you, you should ask yourself, why? So ADP 6-22 is a good starting point to understand leadership. But really to the question at hand, how do you lead in today's soldier in the current operational environment? Requires a deeper study, and we don't have enough time this morning to cover all that, but I will challenge you as you partake in your profession moving forward to think about leadership and talk to your peers and your mentors, because it's a wonderful journey and experience to understand you as a leader today and what you'll be tomorrow. After 33 years of service and 7 of those years being enlisted, I'm still learning what it means to be an effective leader, and I'm certainly a different leader today than I was when I first commissioned in 1996. So what has changed, you might ask? Well, as an armor officer, an Armor Brigade combat team mission is to close and destroy with the enemy using fire and movement to repel enemy attacks and to control land, populations, and resources. That mission really hasn't changed that much, but what has is you all in the room and the soldiers you lead. I believe you all and those soldiers are different today. I think today's soldier is more socially and culturally and demographically aware and connected. They see the world through a different lens that I know I used to and still do. I've got a young son and daughter, and so I look to them so I know the world looks different in their eyes. And I believe how they socialize and communicate and what they think is important, what they value, matters. And I think as leaders today, we have to understand what those things are. So here's a few things to consider. Prepare a copy, like you've got pen and paper on you, ready to go. So what kind of leader are you? Do you know your strengths and the areas you need to improve? Are you willing to change? Are you able to acknowledge that maybe your leadership style isn't the most effective? Are you authentic, adaptive, a servant leader? Are you dynamic so you can change the conditions on the ground? Do you know your personality traits and those of your peers and those that you lead? And maybe you should know what they are, because it'll help you be a more effective communicator and leader. Are you self-aware, or are you oblivious to what you're saying and doing? And how will you know if you're doing it right? A good platoon sergeant, a peer, a good platoon sergeant, someone close to you, I would ask them to help them be your battle buddy. Help them be that person who can give you a gut check to see how you're doing. Right? It's part of your self-development. You'll need that someone to give you that honest feedback when you need it most. Even when it's even not welcomed, you'll need to hear it. So what's more important, agreement or understanding? Certainly as a leader, your lawful orders will be followed, but when you add buy-in from your subordinates, you'll not only get agreement, but you'll get understanding. It's transformational. There are many ways to accomplish the mission, but put your pride aside and let someone else rise to the occasion. Empowerment is very powerful. So what is the current climate and culture of the unit you'll be leading? All right, some of you are going active duty, some are going to reserves. Regardless, you're going to step into an environment you don't know yet. And you know the difference between climate and culture. And I'll use an iceberg as an analogy. Climate is that shared perspective that the soldiers of the unit, it's everything that they can see above the water. And culture is how soldiers feel about the organization, right? And how they feel about it can affect their behavior. A good example of this is a culture that allows sexual harassment to persist, where members believe that this type of behavior is allowed to persist. It's one extreme example, but it's a reality of things are as you enter the leadership role that you're stepping into. Changing culture can take a long time, right? But it's leader-led for change. So don't underestimate feedback you'll get in command climate surveys or other methods. They could be a real punch in the gut, I know it. But it's a powerful tool. You should accept that feedback, whether it's warranted or not. I remember thinking consciously about getting my first feedback as a battalion commander. But it was a pivotal moment for me to realize that I thought I understood my organization, but I realized I didn't know it the way I probably should. And so that feedback's very, very powerful. So what's happening in the organization today as it relates to cultural awareness and empathy? You know, and General Ornstein mentioned this yesterday. I don't remember constantly thinking about these two different values as a young officer, but I can tell you today, I do believe they deeply matter to the soldiers you're going to be leading. So how you choose to communicate will determine how well you connect with your peers and subordinates. And I promise you, they'll read you like a book the day you walk in the door. So ask yourself how you want to be read. So when considering how to lead in today's Army, in today's operational environment, I'll close with another question for you to consider. How do you lead someone you don't know? And what does it mean really today to know somebody? That might vary depending whether you're active duty or reserves, where you see folks every single day or once a month. But the challenge will be the same. A good leader is one that is never done learning and is always critical of themselves. So I'm going to give you a few books that I've read. It's not the full list. And here goes. Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. Radical Inclusion by General Retired Mark Dempsey. Generations, Inc. by Megan and Larry Johnson. And Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card. Just a few things that I've read in my past that I look back today. I'll tell you, as a leader, as a profession of arms, right, you're constantly learning. Right? The journey never stops. I've been fortunate to have been surrounded by some incredible leaders, peers, and NCOs. And you should want to be surrounded by the same people who will challenge you every day to make you better. Right? Those folks that I've been fortunate to serve with didn't want to see me fail. They didn't want to see their unit fail. So look for those folks. Look for the folks that are going to make you better. I haven't always gotten it right, but I'm willing to accept my failures along the way and learn from them. Be mindful not to take yourself too serious, right? The job is serious, and I understand that. And the challenges ahead are many. But a little humility and empathy can go a long way to building trust and cohesion in your units. So congratulations to you all. Your journey as a leader begins today. Now is the time to decide what kind of leader you want to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for taking the time to address our cadets. We greatly appreciate it. Now we will recognize the cadets who will soon receive their commission as an officer, United States Army. During this ceremony, you will witness several traditions cadets go through in order to begin their journey as an officer in the United States Army. The first tradition is the oath of office that publicly binds us by our honor and commitment to certain specific obligations to serve and defend the Constitution and our way of life. The second is the pinning of the gold bars. These bars are a visible symbol of the malleability of new officers, as well as an indication of our rank as a member of the officer corps. Third is the giving and the receiving of the first salute, a tradition between the new officer and a non-commissioned officer. It is customary for the newly commissioned officer to present a silver dollar to the first NCO to salute him or her. This tradition dates back to the British colonial America and reflects the respect and confidence the new officer has for the NCO Corps. The final tradition is the written receipt of the written commission, in which the Secretary of the Army assigns the new lieutenant the authority to accomplish the duties and responsibilities of their appointed rank. We'll now have Cadet Ridwan Ali come forward at this time. Cadet Ali was born in Mogadishu, Somalia, and comes from Savage, Minnesota. He's been a member of the Maverick ROTC program for 2 years, while also serving in the Minnesota National Guard. He'll graduate with a degree in Computer Information Technology from Minnesota State University and has served as Battalion S8 and the Funds and Budgeting Officer for his MS4 year. He'll be branching into the Signal Corps into the National Guard. Cadet Ali will now be sworn in by Lieutenant Colonel Randy Herman.
I state your name.
I, Ridwan Osman Ali,
Have been appointed an officer
have been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant.
in the grade of second lieutenant.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith
That I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same.
and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely
That I will take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation,
without any mental preservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully
And I will faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
about which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Second Lieutenant Ali's uncle and aunt, Tahir and Mulki, will pin his rank on his shoulders. Providing Second Lieutenant Ali's first salute is Sergeant First Class Lawrence Eustace. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest officer, Second Lieutenant Ridwan Ali. We'll now have Cadet Dylon Bigglebach come forward at this time. Cadet Bigglebach is from Oak Grove, Minnesota. He's been a member of the Maverick ROTC program for 5 years. He'll graduate with a degree in construction management from Minnesota State University and has served as Battalion Future Operations Officer and Intelligence Officer. He'll be branching active duty infantry. Cadet Bigglebach will now be sworn in by Second Lieutenant Reese Pogorski.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name. I, Dylan Thomas Bigglebach, having been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States,
in the Army of the United States,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
of bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will and well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
of which I am about to enter.
in which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Second Lieutenant Bickelbach's father and mother, Bruce and Elisa, will now pin his rank on his shoulders. Providing Second Lieutenant Bickelbach's first salute is Master Sergeant Edgar Tenzing. I present to you the Army's newest officer, Second Lieutenant Dylon Bickelbach. We'll now have Cadet Thomas Coatney come forward at this time. Cadet Coatney is from Eden Prairie, Minnesota. He's been in the Maverick ROTC program for 4 years and will graduate with a degree in business management from Minnesota State University. Cadet Coatney served as a Battalion S4 during his MS4 year. Cadet Coatney is branching into the Minnesota State National Guard. Cadet Coatney will now be sworn in by Lieutenant Colonel Brian Schleicher.
Right hand, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Thomas Henry Coatney,
Having been appointed an officer
have been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter. So help me God. So help me God.
Second Lieutenant Coatney's father and mother, Thomas and Lewis, will pin his rank on his shoulders. Providing Second Lieutenant Coatney's first salute is Airman McConville. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest officer, Second Lieutenant Thomas Copeland. We will now have Cadet Dalton Dolly come forward at this time. Cadet Dolly is from Hayfield, Minnesota. He's been part of the Maverick ROTC program for 3 years and will be graduating from Gustavus Adolphus College with a degree in nursing. He has served as Battalion S1 and Special Teams Advisor during his MS4 year. Cadet Dolly will be branching United States Army Reserve Nurse Corps. Cadet Dolly will now be sworn in by Second Lieutenant Luke Nash.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your full name.
I, Dalton Dolly,
Having been appointed an officer
having been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of Second Lieutenant,
in the grade of Second Lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Dolly's father and mother, Dennis and Bridget, will pin his rank on his shoulders. Providing Second Lieutenant Dolly's first salute is Sergeant Cameron Stadler. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest officer, Second Lieutenant Dalton Dolly. We'll now have Cadet Jacob Finley come forward at this time. Cadet Finley is from Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. Hopefully I said that right. He's been a part of the Maverick ROTC program for 4 years and will be graduating from Minnesota State University with a degree in international relations. He has served as battalion commander and platoon advisor during his MS4 year, and he is branching active duty infantry. Cadet Finley will now be sworn in by Second Lieutenant Nathaniel Tuchek.
Raise your right hand. State your full name.
I, Jacob Allen Finley,
Having been appointed an officer in the Army of the United States
am being appointed an officer in the Army of the United States
in the grade of Second Lieutenant,
in the grade of Second Lieutenant.
do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of office
discharge the duties of the office
of which I am about to enter.
of which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Finley's father and mother, Todd and Lori, will pin his rank on his shoulders. Providing Second Lieutenant Finlay's first salute is Corporal Sean Meyer. The Professor of Military Science will now present Second Lieutenant Finlay with the Distinguished Military Graduate Certificate for Outstanding Scholastic Achievement as Cadet. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest officer, Second Lieutenant Jacob Finlay. We will now have Cadet Jaden Fritz come forward at this time. Cadet Fritz is from Norwood, Young America, Minnesota. She's been part of the Maverick ROTC program for 3 years and will graduate from Minnesota State University with a degree in nursing. She has served as a battalion executive officer and recruiting officer during her MS4 year. She has branched active duty into the Nurse Corps. Cadet Fritz will now be sworn in by Second Lieutenant Emily Farniak.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jaden Brianne Fritz,
Have been appointed an officer
have been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant.
in the grade of second lieutenant.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
and that I take this obligation freely
and that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
and that I will well
and faithfully
and faithfully
discharge the duties of my office
discharge the duties of my office
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Everyone. Yeah.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Fritz's father and mother, Brian and Danielle, will pin her rank on her shoulders. Providing Second Lieutenant Fritz's first salute is Master Sergeant Raymond Mason. The Professor of Military Science will now present Second Lieutenant Fritz with a Distinguished Military Graduate Certificate for an outstanding scholastic achievement as cadet. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest officer, Second Lieutenant Jaden Fritz. We'll now have Cadet Sancho Lopez come forward at this time. Cadet Lopez was born in the Philippines and resides in Blaine, Minnesota. He's been in the Maverick ROTC program for 4 years and will be graduating from the College of Allied Health and Nursing with a degree in Bachelor of Science in Nursing. Cadet Lopez has served as both the Battalion S2 and the Operations Officer for his MS4 year. Cadet Lopez will be branching United States Army Reserve into the Nurse Corps. Cadet Lopez will now be sworn in by Lieutenant Colonel Brian Schleger.
I, Sancho Luis Lopez,
Having been appointed an officer
having been appointed an officer
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support and defend
to support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
and I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you, sir.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Lopez's father and mother, Czar Joseph and Lindley, will pin his rank on his shoulders. Providing Second Lieutenant Lopez's first salute is Specialist Gabriel Senf. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest officer, Second Lieutenant Sancho Lopez. We will now have Cadet Justin Marcy come forward at this time. Cadet Marcy is from Osage, Iowa. He's been in the Maverick ROTC program for 3 years and will be graduating from Minnesota State University with a degree in law enforcement. Cadet Marcy has served as both a platoon advisor and a cadet battalion commander during his MS4 year. Cadet Marcy will be branching infantry into the active component. Cadet Marcy will now be sworn in by Captain Chadwick Hayter.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your names.
I, Justin Scott Marcy,
Having been appointed an officer
in
the Army of the United States,
in the Army of the United States,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support and defend
the
Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance,
that I will take this obligation freely
that I'll take this obligation
without
freely,
any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
and
I will discharge the duties of the office
I'll discharge the duties of the office
of which I am about to enter. So help me God.
So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Marcy's spouse, Sarah, father Mark Marcy, and mother Jamie Morris will pin his rank on his shoulders. Providing Second Lieutenant Marcy's first salute is Specialist Cole Mullenbach. The Professor of Military Science will now present Cadet Marcy with a Distinguished Military Graduate Certificate for outstanding scholastic achievement as a cadet. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest officer, Second Lieutenant Justin Marcy. We'll now have Cadet Alexander Nielsen come forward at this time. Cadet Nielsen is from Coon Rapids, Minnesota. He's been in the Maverick ROTC program for 4 years and will be graduating from Gustavus Adolphus College with a double major in history and Russian. Cadet Nielsen has served as Special Teams Advisor and the Assistant Operations Officer during his 4 year. Cadet Nielsen will be branching into the active duty component, Armor. Cadet Nielsen will now be sworn in by Lieutenant Colonel Brian Schleicher.
I state your name.
I, Alexander Nielsen,
Having been appointed an officer
having been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of Second Lieutenant,
in the grade of Second Lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Oh my God.
So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Nielsen's mother, Marilyn, father, Eric, and sister, Isabella, will pin his rank on his shoulders. Providing Second Lieutenant Nielsen's first salute is Sergeant Eric Nielsen. There we go. One second. I present to you the Army's newest officer, Second Lieutenant Alexander Nielsen. We will now have Cadet Ashby Roloff come forward at this time. Cadet Roloff is from St. Peters, Minnesota. She's been in the Maverick Battalion ROTC program for 2 years and will be graduating from Minnesota State University with a degree in mass media. Cadet Roloff has served as Battalion Public Affairs Officer during his 4 year. Cadet Roloff will be branching field artillery into the active component. Cadet Roloff will now be sworn in by First Lieutenant Sean Blazer.
I, Ashby Sue Roloff,
Have been appointed an officer
have been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of Second Lieutenant.
in the grade of Second Lieutenant.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
I will bear true faith
I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same.
and allegiance to the same.
That I will take this obligation freely
That I will take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
And I will well and faithfully
And I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Roloff's father and mother, Rob and Lindy, will pin her rank on her shoulders. Providing Second Lieutenant Roloff's first salute is First Sergeant Eric Grunsvold. I present to you the Army's newest officer, Second Lieutenant Ashby Roloff. We'll now have Cadet Andrew Schmidt come forward at this time. Cadet Schmidt is from Chaska, Minnesota. He's been in the Maverick ROTC program for 2.5 years and will be graduating from Minnesota State University with a degree in marketing. Cadet Schmidt has served as Battalion S1 during his MS4 year. Cadet Schmidt will be branching transportation into the active component. Cadet Schmidt will now be sworn in by Lieutenant Colonel Brian Schleicher.
I state your name.
I, Andrew James Schmidt,
Having been appointed an officer in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
the
Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Schmidt's spouse, Chloe, father and mother, Andrew and Emily, will pin his rank on his shoulders. Providing Second Lieutenant Schmidt's first salute is Master Gunnery Sergeant Mike Zender. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest officer, Second Lieutenant Andrew Schmidt. We'll now have Cadet Abavio Cerebor come forward at this time. Cadet Cerebor is from Rochester, Massachusetts. He's been in the Maverick ROTC program for 3 years and will be graduating from Gustavus Adolphus College with a degree in economic analysis and a French minor. Cadet Cerebor served as a Gustavus advisor and platoon advisor during his MS4 year. Cadet Cerebor will be branching active duty into the Ordnance Corps. Cadet Cerebor will now be sworn in by Lieutenant Colonel Brian Schleicher.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I,
I, Paul Father Servo,
having been appointed an officer
having been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant,
in the grade of second lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United
the
States
Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Servo's father and mother, Abigail Sr. and Jemima Otang, will pin his rank on his shoulders. Providing Second Lieutenant Servo's first salute is Sergeant First Class Kevin Cumlin. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Army's newest officer, Second Lieutenant Abigail Servo. We will now have Cadet Raymond Shoup come forward at this time. Cadet Shoup is from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. He's been in the Maverick ROTC program for 2 years and will be graduating from Minnesota State University with a degree in clinical social work. Cadet Shoup has been serving at the Battalion S5 during his MS4 year. Cadet Shoup will be branching medical services officer in the Minnesota State National Guard. Cadet Shoup will now be sworn in by Lieutenant Colonel Randy Herman.
I state your name.
I, Raymond Christopher Shoup,
Have been appointed an officer
have been appointed an officer
in the Army of the United States
in the Army of the United States
in the grade of second lieutenant.
in the grade of second lieutenant.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
That I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same.
and allegiance to the same,
That I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion,
And that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Shoup's father and mother, Robert and Diana, will pin his rank on his shoulders. Providing Second Lieutenant Shoup's first salute is Sergeant First Class Lawrence Eustace. present to you the Army's newest officer, Second Lieutenant Raymond Shoup. We will now have Cadet Dearest Welwoolley come forward at this time. Cadet Welwoolley was born in Liberia and grew up in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. She has been in the Maverick ROTC program for 3 years and will be graduating from Minnesota State University with a degree in law enforcement. Cadet Welwoolley has served as a battalion recruitment officer and a command sergeant major during her MS4 year. Cadet Welwoolley will be branching field artillery into the Minnesota National Guard. Cadet Welwoolley will now be sworn in by Captain Tyler Anderson.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Dearest Mama Welwoolley,
Having been appointed an officer in the Army of the United States
having been appointed officer in the Army of the United States
in the grade of Second Lieutenant,
in the grade of Second Lieutenant,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same,
that
that I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
and
that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I'm about to enter. So help me God.
So help me God.
At this time, Second Lieutenant Welwoolley's sisters, Jonetti, Jewel, and Sinatu will pin her rank on her shoulders. Providing Second Lieutenant Welwoolley's first salute to Sergeant First Class Melissa Rolfels. I present to you the Army's newest officer, Second Lieutenant Dearest Welwoolley. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give one final applause for all the newly commissioned officers of the United States Army. Please rise for the playing of the Army song. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the ceremony. Please have a pleasant afternoon. Hey, one quick announcement. For all the new commissionees, please don't forget you need to pick up the rest of your paperwork from Mr. Jeffrey D.